Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content for tonight's video is something that was quietly released about an opinion from the Supreme Court. Now, this is not just about wetlands. You need to zoom out a little bit, because what just occurred is a pattern, a step in a pattern that is establishing against executive bureaucracies of which they draw all of their power. This is shaping up to be disastrous for executive bureaucracies and amazing for freedom if what I'm about to share with you plays out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below if I landed this plane, and make sure, of course, that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn that notification bell on, because we have got some freedom to spread, and all the content will be referenced down in the description box if you want to find out more. And the content today is brought to you by Lear Capital. Now, we all know that a recession is either here or right around the corner. And while the administration tries to pull the wool over our eyes, we can get in front of them by partnering with a company like Lear Capital. You call in the number on the screen right now and you can find out how you can protect your wealth and create a safeguard against all the measures and policies they put in place with precious metals like gold and silver. Now, there's a ton of gold companies out there, but I choose to do business with Lear Capital because I trust them, and you can too. They have over 25 years experience in the field, thousands of 5-star reviews, and they have a 24-hour guarantee period. Make sure you call the number on the screen or visit LearLangley.com to see how precious metals can be converted from part of your retirement into something that can be a safe haven against the insane policies that we're receiving. You can also see if you qualify for $15,000 in bonus metals should the order qualify. And thank you to Lear Capital for making this content possible. All right, my brothers and sisters, we've got to dive in, and you guys know how I like to zoom out and see the entire trend, the macro trend of what we're seeing from the SCOTUS. So what I'm going to do is break this up into 3 different parts, very small little parts, but it shows you the past, the present, and where we're going. All 3 are aiming at the executive bureaucracy's power of interpretation to make law. This is a really big deal, again, if you zoom out and see where the SCOTUS is going. Check this out. First, we're going to hit the past, because this happened last year, and we hit this a lot. This is something against the EPA from West Virginia. So what you're seeing on screen right now is the opinion, West Virginia versus EPA. In this opinion, the justices came out and they ruled against the EPA because the EPA was attempting to create carbon dioxide and redefine the definition as a toxin. It's not a toxin, it's in our atmosphere now, and that's what the SCOTUS has basically said. You can't just reinterpret and change definitions to suit your desires for a narrative in order to enforce your laws or rules. That was the big piece. That was massive because that went against the bureaucracies that just interpret law outside of Congress. That's where this focuses. Okay, so that's where we've been last year. Now, this is the case that came out about 4 or 5 days ago. This is the Hackett case. Now, what this is extremely boring. If you are looking for something to fall asleep, read this entire opinion. It's down there in the video, in the description box. But the basic premise is the EPA again lost on an interpretation of what is and what is not a wetlands. They were utilizing the interpretation powers of the Clean Air Act in the West Virginia versus EPA case, but then in this one that just passed with this, or that just was ruled in Sackett, this is the EPA getting smacked down on the Clean Water Act. They did the exact same thing in 2 different things, one with air and one with water. It's like, you know, Captain Planet or something. But the big thing that we're talking about here is, again, a curtailing of interpretation through executive fiat. The executive bureaucracies were just making whole cloth definitions. Well, the SCOTUS just smacked it around. That is now 2 instances of the air for the EPA getting killed for the CPA of interpretation, carbon dioxide for the interpretation. And then you had the wetlands, which was, again, interpretation of what is a wetlands. Again, very boring, but it has everything to do with what's going on with the ATF, the FBI, the CDC, the EPA. All of these organizations are about to have their power curtailed if you look at the past and the present. And now you look at the future, and this is the important piece. Because as we focus on these things, we can start to see this pattern developing. This is what the Supreme Court just accepted to hear case on. Supreme Court will consider major case on power of federal regulatory agencies. What they're talking about is relitigating the Chevron deference case. Now, Chevron deference is what the CDC, the EPA, what all these executive bureaucracies use to interpret law outside of what Congress passed. The basic principle is, if Congress did not explicitly say you can't have lowers, then we'll just change the definition of receiver, and then now we can ban a lower or an upper or a pistol or a ghost gun, whatever. That's the idea. That's what the ATF uses it for. So if the Chevron deference case, of which, by the way, multiple SCOTUSs have said this is terrible case law and we need to overturn it prior to this, if Chevron deference gets overturned and relitigated, you're talking about the past of West Virginia versus EPA. You can't do that. EPA gets smoked by the Hackett case. You can't do that. So we had air and then we had the wetlands. And then you have Chevron deference being relitigated. Do you see the pattern in the direction that is trending? That is trending against executive bureaucracies interpreting law whole cloth through the use of rules, which has been doctrine for a while, decades. This is massive, and what it would effectively do is it would curtail the deep state. It would curtail the executive bureaucracies who were not elected and make them basically subservient to Congress again. This is in no means small. But when you look at all three of these things and you tie them together in a step-by-step fashion, the ATF, particularly in our world, may be about to get so curtailed that they have to spend a little bit more time focusing on alcohol and tobacco because firearms are going to be a no-touch. And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments field below. Let me know if I landed this plane because it's some very interesting stuff. And I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.